People a lot of the time now with social media, they really just want to do things that are fun. And a lot of it, like the real groundwork of building a long-term business is like doing the things that aren't fun and like building that foundation, and then while you can add in and do all the fun things. My name is Leah Kirsch and my title is artist. I was born in Germany and I think I was 4 and we moved to Singapore. We were there for just under 3 years and then we moved to Michigan, an hour north of Detroit in a small town called Clarkston. When I was little, I always said I was gonna open up a boutique in New York. When you're young, those answers are very fun and cute until you get a little older and people are like, okay, but be serious now. The biggest memory that I have was to go shopping with my mom. And she really encouraged me to dress funky and express. I started patching jeans with my mom, and that kind of was the first taste that everyone saw of my entrepreneurial spirit, because I started patching them for other people, for the girls in school, because everyone had ripped jeans that they couldn't wear. Kept like a little accounting log of everything, because I was charging people for it. And not like a little bit, like $60 or $80 for like, yeah. I mean, obviously their parents were paying, but yeah, that was kind of my first real fashion memories. Looking back, it was really nice growing up in Michigan, but I didn't love it. I had a lot of girl drama and high school was pretty tough for me. I grew up really fast physically and stood out. So I graduated high school early and we moved back to Germany in the same exact town I was born. So I got to travel around and get away from Michigan and kind of figure out who I was, but I was accepted to Fordham University in New York. Everyone around you is telling you to make like very like responsible adult decisions, which is don't go to school for fashion, don't go to school for anything creative. This was my very corporate family and the advice that I was given. And so that's why I went to the business school at Fordham. In a way to balance that, I was like, I'm gonna work in fashion. And so I got a job at PR Consulting. I don't know how big of a PR company it is at Fordham, but it led to my Chanel internship, my Louis Vuitton internship, my Monique Lhuillier, and Harper's Bazaar internship. So it was big enough, but it was really hard to get an internship. Of course it's unpaid. But they were like, well, we need you to have experience. I was like, look, I don't have experience, but I promise you I'm a hard worker and I'll do whatever you need. I'm an extra set of hands. And it was really brutal, but I loved being around the clothes. So it was perfect. There were a couple of things that happened as I was preparing to start my brand. I got the internship at Harper's Bazaar. I wanted to go on the receiving end of clothing. It felt extremely chaotic to me, so I made a really hard decision and didn't do that internship. So I had the summer free, and in that time, I had already been building websites for people. I taught myself graphic design like through school, just for fun, because I always wanted to do it. And that was one of my side hustles in college, you know, just scraping money from everywhere. I had just, you know, doing everything. So I built myself a website, and my best friend, her half-sister's boyfriend was a screen printer in Brooklyn. I made some designs, had him print shirts, and I had a really diverse group of friends. And again, this is when Instagram just started, like maybe a year and a half after. A photographer came, he took some pictures of us in my Bronx apartment. White background, black and white, all the girls looked so different, so it was really cool to capture everyone black and white with the shirts, and everyone got to pick their own shirts and style their own outfits. Obviously, I had to like approve it after because it was my vision at the end. I was like, I can't pay you, but there's gonna be champagne and everyone gets 1 to 2 t-shirts depending on how good I feel like this goes. And that was kind of the start of it, which at the time, the name was Millionaires. It was supposed to be like your 1 in a million. After Millionaires and doing the graphic designs and the t-shirts, I started customizing Nike Air Force Ones. And that was the moment that everything pivoted. It was still a very challenging, difficult time because it's extremely hard to make livable money off of $36 shirts, unless you're doing really, really major quantities. Seriously, like you can't. I was dead broke, like worse than broke, in debt, like trying to do everything. So anyway, I started customizing these Air Force Ones and people just loved them. In that time, that's when the writing came alive. I just started posting them on Instagram, sent them to a couple influencers. Again, when influencers it was a very different world. People were wearing things because they loved them. And when you shouted it out, it was like a flood of orders, organic followers. It was just a different world. John Hickman from Nike, he saw me on Instagram and he was like, these are really rad, let's do something. And I was like, okay. amazing. You know, at that point, every opportunity that I thought was even kind of cool, I was jumping on, because I was just like, I was reaching. I was really, really hustling. I was trying everything. Once he sent me an email from like the Nike email, I was like, okay, I know this is legit. And then I had an interview with someone else from Nike, and they were like, yeah, we want to fly you out and we want to do an event with you. We want you to teach a workshop on your shoes. And of course I thought I was doing it for free because I was just still in that like building phase. I had no idea what the brand was. I basically had no idea what I was doing. So I was trying everything. Yeah, and then at the end of the year, it was like right before Christmas. Again, I thought I was doing that for free. They're like, oh, we need your invoice. We still don't have your invoice. And I was like, oh my God, wait, I got paid for that? So that was really also a pretty nice moment. And I didn't even know what to charge them. I had no idea. So that was a nice learning experience too for me. When I'm thinking about partnering with brands, it's a combination of things. I think the first thing that comes to mind that I can think about is what time of the year it is. If it's the end of the year, Q4, it's gonna be really busy. So you have to decide which one is potentially gonna bring in the best dollar sign. And also what your personal life looks like, right? The second thing is when I do get inbound, I'm like, are these people nice people, good people who run a good brand? Which generally, I have to say, I've never had an instance where that hasn't been the case. I think people come to my brand and they already know that I'm not gonna just be a sellout, basically. It's not necessarily being a sellout, but it needs to align with me. And I haven't ever had to make that decision, but it is something that crosses my mind. Like, for example, I collaborate with the Hothke candles, and they're women run, they're small, they're really nice, they're easy to work with, the communication is smooth. So working on the art installation for Coachella, I think was a total of maybe a 6-week process. This could be wrong, but it felt like more time was talked about it than actually doing it. I had about, I think it was 3 or 4 days to actually paint the lanterns. And it sounds a lot easier than it was because the lanterns have a little wire in them. So you have to like paint over them nicely. And of course I wanted it to look perfect. It was an interactive installation also. So some of them were really low so people could write on them. It was hours and hours and hours of work. But again, beyond exciting. It was just the best thing in the moment, right? Every new project feels really like the best new project. After it all happened, it was like, whoa, we did that. There are real people behind these festivals and, just sitting here in the studio, like working on this stuff, and it comes out so professional and it looks so beautiful, but it's like, yeah, people plugging in with zip ties, like up and down ladders, placing it like with their own hands. And so I think that it's just a really nice thing to remember how the world works and how everything gets done. The biggest piece of advice that I would give to people who are starting their own businesses or want to go off and do their own thing, the first one that comes to my mind right now is to do something that you love. It's such a generic piece of advice, but I don't think it's sustainable to do it otherwise unless you have a huge team. If you do something that you love and you do it honestly and with integrity, it's gonna feel good no matter what, even when it's hard, and it's gonna be hard. So at least you can be like, this sucks right now, but I know overall it's gonna be for something I love.